Thank you.
I have to say.
Thank you, Jeff. Oh, right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. We'll declare this meeting of council open. Mai e te Paemonga, raro ke te tai, mai i te awa tonga, raro ke te awa raki. Tēnei te hapuri awhiai a taratahi, whānau, haere mai, toki, te toki, homi e hui e. Apologies, we have two apologies, one from Councillor Robin Cherry Campbell. The other is from Marama Fox for lateness. She will be here a little bit later. Conflicts of interest declaration, are there any? Apologies. Sorry, do I need that? Move those apologies be accepted. Thank you, Councillor Della, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All in favour?
Aye.
Hence, carried. Conflicts of interest declaration, are there? Councillor Newman.
I'm on the Carrington Park Users Group, so that's 7.3.
Duly noted.
We should discussed with Councillor Newman who are interested in the Carrington Park user group, and I don't consider that it would impinge your ability to participate in the conversation or in the vote.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Councillor Newman. Conflict of interest noted, and the comments from the advice from the CEE. Public forum. We have 4 presentations this morning. First one on social housing. Kerry Layton.
Hi.
Come to the table, please.
Hi, Ron. Thank you. Do I want to sit down?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Meeting. Well, actually, there's 2 things. Number one, it's pretty simple. It's Pembroke Street. Whenever you walk up and down Pembroke Street, your shoes get full of gravel. It's never been sealed properly.
The footpath.
The footpath, yeah.
Okay.
Problem most of you people have cars, but I don't. And it really needs attending. The other thing is social housing. Now, I was told to keep my address to 1 point, but we'll let that one go. The second one is social housing, and I have been told that the council no longer has a representative on the Carter Court board. Is that true?
I believe that's correct because it's no longer part of council. So Carter Court is a
Right.
independent provider. It's not a council-owned facility.
But I also have been told that in 5 years' time, there'll be another consultation to see whether the council takes back the property.
I'm not aware of that. I thought the gift was a permanent. So the gifting of the property and the land to Carter Court was a permanent gift, and
Right.
it wasn't a temporary thing. It was a transfer of the asset.
Well, maybe I've got it wrong, but I talked to an ex-councillor and they said that was what was going to happen. And in 5 years' time, there'll be another public consultation about taking it back.
We would be unable to unless Carter Court offered it back because the the land has transferred or is in the process of transferring to them, and the facility has already transferred to them.
Well, they're not good enough. The management there is no good.
Okay.
And they're amateurs, you know, and I much prefer to be supervised by a group of people like this without any skin in the game rather than being dictated to by a person with their own agenda and subject to harassment from the staff. It's all got to the point now where I was hauled up before the Tenancy Tribunal and the charge was dismissed, or case or whatever you call it, was dismissed. But they're open to being sued. But anyway, I would like to know whether there's going to be further public consultation on the.
Councillor Crenny.
If I can comment, I'm on the executive for Carter Society, and we had a meeting yesterday, and there's no talk about trying to return the social housing back to Carter District Council at all.
Is that right?
That's correct. And we also talked about having CDC membership on their board as such.
Yeah,
And I think in their constitution or in their rulings, they do state they require two people to be on their board. And Jill Greathead was on council and one of their members representing CDC. And I'm not sure if we signed her over to carry on in that role. I'm not sure, but they're going to look at making me the CDC rep. I wasn't put on there as a CDC rep, but they're going to look at asking that I can be the CDC rep.
all right. And sorry, who is Steve Cretney? Oh, hi, Steve. Yeah, well, I'll come and talk to you later at another time or another place, and we'll
No problem.
discuss this matter further.
Thanks, Kerry.
They're amateurs and not very good at it either,
Okay. Thanks for that.
in my opinion anyway.
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you very much for listening.
Thanks, Kerry. Thank you. Anna. And Gary. Yep, both. Please.
Two cheers.
Hi, tēnā koutou. My name's Anna Beetham. Thank you for having me here this morning. 93 people drowned in New Zealand last year. I wonder how many of those hadn't drowned had they had swim lessons. Being able to swim is a vital life-saving skill, and the Carterton indoor pool gives Carterton residents, as well as South Wairarapa residents, this opportunity. Without this facility, there is simply no other option for our local community. The Carterton indoor pool is owned by the Carterton Swimming Club on a not-for-profit basis. It's sited on land leased from the council. It's used by many different individuals and groups from South Wairarapa and Carterton, as it's the only all-year-round pool available to the public outside of Masterton, which for many is too far to travel and currently at capacity. Over the years, the pool has brought health and happiness to many people, including myself. It's been a training ground for champions such as Olympian Jonathan Winter and currently our own Ava Wilson. Today, the pool serves our community's health and wellbeing and water safety. It's currently used by the Carterton Swim Club and Russell Grange Swim Academy, Jolly Rogers water safety lessons, and schools, aqua aerobics groups, the Thrive community, and people swimming for fitness, training and leisure, active seniors, injured and disabled people for rehabilitation and therapeutic benefits. Members of our community who use the pool have shared with us what the pool means to them, and it's emotional to think of the detrimental effect that this would have if the facility was to close. I've actually got some letters here from the community which I've printed out, which I'll hand over, which just basically show how much support there is for keeping this facility open. Can I have a show of hands who's visited the pool in the last 12 months, the indoor pool in the last 12 months? So those of you who have will know just the state that it's in. It's dilapidated, it's beyond repair, and it needs replacement. And if it's not replaced, it will close. And that's really simply the nuts and bolts of it. Quotes to replace the deteriorating building start at 1.8 million, and that's at the lower end of the scale for a high tensile structure. Quotes for a built structure are nearly twice that. Our draft feasibility study and business case developed with the generous funding from Kāpai Carterton shows that the pool is very much needed by our community. Based on New Zealand Sport National Guidance, published in 2013, pool provision for a provincial catchment of 10,000 people should be 300 square metres. That's nearly twice what the current indoor pool provides. As the district's population is expected to reach over 13,000 by 2051, the issue of under-provision will worsen. I'm here today representing a small group of passionate volunteers who are fundraising to save the Carterton indoor pool. We're in the process of applying for grant funding, but we need your support. We know that times are hard and that there's likely not funding through the annual plan to build an indoor pool. But what we are asking for is that whatever you can give, recognising the social, health and wellbeing benefits the pool provides you and our community. We're asking that you be generous in your upcoming community funding round this year and beyond. By supporting the indoor pool project, it goes some way to meeting your council obligations of promoting community wellbeing for both the young, old and everyone in between. We know there's a huge journey ahead and we ask that you walk with us on this journey. Simply put, we need council support. Without your support, we can't continue. Make saving the indoor pool and preventing drownings in our community part of your legacy on council. Please don't sit back and let this community facility close. Thank you.
Questions?
Thank you.
So we're just talking about the building, you're not looking at increasing the size of the pool?
Yeah, it's just the building. Yeah.
It'll still be 160 square metres.
Yes, it'll still be, and it's a training facility at the moment, so it's basically as it is. And the idea is that if we replace the structure, then it becomes a better facility for those that are using it and probably more desirable for other people that want to use it as well. There's a lot of information in our business case about what we can do and how we can increase revenue into the building as well. Yeah.
These numbers, 487, that's all weekly, 2,000 a month visits. That's all year round
Yes.
because it's indoor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the outdoor pool's only open for, is it 3 or 4 months of the year? Yeah. Yeah.
At times that by 12.
Yeah. So there's a huge amount, and all of the groups that use it, obviously without this, there is, we have our Olympic swimmers and we have Russell Gangers Academy, but we've also got members of the community that rely on this for 3 times a week. They go there because they can't walk or they can't do any other strength work other than being in the water. And without that, these people are going to be in a lot more pain, and for mental well-being, that's going to have a significant effect. So it's not just about the swimmers, it's about everyone that uses this pool, and all of the South Wairarapa uses it as well, because to travel up to Masterton, and with the roads the way they are at the moment, that's an even longer journey.
You aware of how many people who might be using it for ACC rehabilitation?
I haven't got those figures.
There is
but-
a letter from the Disability Association.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
didn't give numbers, but they gave numbers on the number of permits in South Wairarapa and Masterton that were given out last year and the year before.
Right, I can.
Time, 5 minutes.
Talk more.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that'd be great. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Oh, sorry.
Oh, just, thank you, ladies. Just, based on this, you're asking for council support. I mean, if we discussed and based on that, it'd be easy to give a letter of support, but that doesn't take you very far. What, do you have a sort of a budget and a financial projection and things for council to consider at a deeper level around what support?
Do you have an
might look like?
expectation of?
So at this point, we have got what we've raised so far, which is $20,000, and that's purely from fundraising from the community and working group. And we're going to have to spend that money to employ a fund writer, to get more procurement to nail down the costs of, and look further for quotes for the buildings itself. So we're going to have to pay the money for that. So whether it be project management or procurement or something that the council has employees or
We've sort
teams
of,
that do already, that sort of.
through the journey, we've sort of had lower expectations of the council because we've sort of been told there's no money. When I spoke to Greg Lang, because Greg Lang brought me on when he was in, and so we sort of haven't really been able to, I guess, get an idea because we've sort of been told that there's nothing to give. So we'd love to sit down and actually, given that we've got a new council, we'd love to sit down and see what you are in a position to be able to help us with financially, because we need, the nuts and bolts are we need money to be able to get this off the ground. But we know that council's not going to be able to fund the whole thing. We know funders are what is going to get the money in. But ideally, I think the community needs to see that the council have a vested interest in this project.
Well, we do because it's the council land that sits underneath it. I mean, there's various processes that council undertakes, like long-term plans, and which has an aspect of consultation. And I'd just be keen at this point to know what realistic support from council could look like. That's going to be meaningful to you.
To us.
I guess you go, Steve.
No.
Well, guess what I'd like is a deeper briefing.
Yep.
So I can see what the project plan is, what the steps are that you're required to go through. I'm really interested to know what's caused the level of corrosion, because I have been in the building on numerous occasions. I just can't say if I was in there in the last 12 months, but I'm really interested to know why the steel structure has corroded, given that it's all covered and not exposed to the elements. Is that chlorine?
Got no ventilation.
Is that the chlorine?
It's the chlorine and the dampness. There's no HVAC system in there, so there's no circulation of air and there's no insulation in it at all. It's literally just a tin shed over the top of a pool, and it was never meant to last as long as it has lasted. That's
Yeah.
probably the most important thing. So it's already well beyond its use by date to the
Yeah.
point where it's getting a bit dangerous.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like, for myself, and I don't know if any other,
Yeah.
maybe we get a conversation about having a briefing with
Yeah, that
council.
would be
Yeah,
good.
so
That would be
that-
fantastic.
that-
We'd really
the plan,
appreciate that.
The
Yeah.
whole plan. as
That'd be
to
great.
What it's going to take.
Yeah.
Clearly, you've got to get consultants and engineers, and clearly you've
Yes.
got to have that.
Yeah.
You've done the assessment already.
Yep.
But it's
Yep.
who does the design work and.
Yeah, we'd love to do that.
Yep.
That'd be fantastic.
Thank you.
Just something I should have advised everyone right at the start. Be aware that this has been, this is live streamed and it's recorded. So can we have Andrew? Okay.
One.
Andrew Goodman,
One.
proposed West Wairarapa Trail.
My name's Andrea Gooden. I'm here to speak on behalf of residents concerned with how the West Taratahi steering group has approached their proposal for a trail and how the council so far prior to some discussions recently have handled it and the discord and distrust that's been created in our community. So on the 5th of August, there was a Facebook post created by the West Taratahi group on a Facebook page that there would be there was an idea to create a plan for a multi-use trail, and there was a picture of a horse rider used in that picture. On the 28th of September, 2021, there was a post of a sign of a horse rider with the wording rural character area, indicating that this was sort of the line that they were going to take. On the 23rd of February 22, there was a post stating that they had spoken to contractors, presented it to council for pre-approval and basically acknowledgement, and that the next phase would be to communicate with residents by way of pamphlet, letterbox drop, or actually in person with door knock. And then the next post on the 31st of March says that there was an engagement plan. This consisted of a PDF of the actual proposal and not engagement with residents itself, so not an engagement plan. And in that post, it stated, having got it over the line with council, the next step was to hear from the community for wishes, interests and concerns to be addressed. From that point until the up until now, there has not been any communication until it was forced by residents who noted concerns to the council. And then the steering group has since done a letterbox drop around the proposal. The concern from residents was that the only communication so far was online on Facebook posts and in the newspapers. So anybody who didn't get newspapers, didn't read newspapers, or didn't have access to Facebook were none the wiser as to the plan or the proposal. The post stated that they were seeking full approval at council this morning in this morning's meeting, and that the engagement with the community, the first meeting planned for tonight with the residents. So they were seeking full approval from council with no engagement with residents prior to that. But as I said, that after residents had gone to council with concerns, that has now been pushed out, and the steering committee has been requested to engage with residents before they seek full approval. There's been concerns noted from a lot of residences around things such as car parks that were being proposed outside residences.
Excuse me, Andrew. Trina and I are here on behalf of probably you as well, because we are residents of North Roads, more specifically David Lowe's Lane, which is where this proposed car park might be. So can we join in at this stage?
You need to notify, no, you
No.
need to notify.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there will-
Yeah, fine.
Concern regarding privacy and those car parks that are proposed. And the structure of the trail does not support horse riders. The community is a huge equestrian community with a lot of riders who use the berm for exercising their horses. The proposal excludes horses and riders and actually requests that it would mean that riders would be required to use the berm within the 2 metres between the trail and the road, and it's a 100-kilometre road.
100 kilometres an hour.
Yep.
Yep.
There's also concerns around livestock movement. Dairy farmers that are in the area moving livestock and damage, whether they're liable for damage to the trail. The impact of the rural character with having car parks proposed indicates that the intention is to have people from out of the area come to use it, so increase in traffic. The cost of the maintenance, so the steering committee would be owners of the asset, but the maintenance is proposed to be paid for by ratepayers from the whole of Carterton. And also that there's been, basically that there's been no engagement until residents actually forced it, and so there's been a loss in trust with how the council has handled it. Time.
Sure. Karen.
Oh, okay. So, basically, I just want to sort of summarise and say that with maintenance that's proposed, I know it's not a lot, but it would obviously impact the rates going forward for the whole of the community. In our area, the roading isn't even being addressed. That's a safety issue. I don't see how this can be supported by council and ratepayers when our road is an issue. We have at least 4 cars a year go through our fence on the corner that's the intersection of Wilton and Chester Road. It's been brought up multiple times. It's refused to be addressed, and yet for this project, council have supported the proposal to maintain the cost of the trail. And so to summarise, we would like to get some sort of acknowledgement from the council that a proposal such as this in the future would not get to the stage that it has done without the necessary, without the council checking that the necessary steps for engagement have been taken.
Request. Can I ask how many of you are here to support 2, 3? Okay. And how many residents are you speaking to at the moment, Andrea?
I've probably had about 20 separate households contact me privately on Facebook to request that I speak on their behalf today. I'm not sure how many that is out of how many households that is. But I would say 90% of them are horse riders, horse owners that would use the road and now would be forced to, the proposal says that the horse riders would need to use the side of the road or the opposite side of the road, which goes against the road rules to actually, to ride into oncoming traffic. So they're proposing that horse riders break the law in order to accommodate the trail.
Okay. Another question?
Just for clarification, which part of the trail are you talking about, like specifically?
So the trail goes from Chester Road, Paul, to Norfolk Road.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes from, the proposal goes from David Lowe's Lane, where the car, so those are the two car park points that are
Yes,
proposed.
yeah.
From David Lowe's Lane to, is it Lakes Road?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so there is actually no, I guess the proposal that they've put forward, they're saying is in line with something like the rail trail in Greytown, where it goes from town to a facility, or in Upper Plain where it goes from town to a school. This has no endpoints or facilities. It doesn't go from rail to, to another point or an existing car park like the others already do. So that's where the privacy concerns come in, because they're proposing to add traffic to the area by, building new car parks. One of the car parks is, as this gentleman has indicated, is that right outside a house within meters of their kitchen window. There was no consultation. There's nothing being bought. The person in that house has raised concerns publicly on their Facebook page, and they refuse to address any of the questions. They've just
I'm a bit naive. Why do cycle riders need car park?
to drive to the spot, to drive. Yeah,
Drive the
exactly,
car, to
exactly.
get on their bike, to ride
Yeah,
it,
and-
come back and get in their car.
At the moment, the trail doesn't connect, but the proposal is that eventually it will be connecting to other parts of the trail. So you wouldn't necessarily be driving there, but at this stage, it's only that part of the trail that's been proposed, because that community group's taken ownership of that part.
Okay. Didn't realise.
But the other ends of the trail are not able to be proposed yet, because they would require a bridge over Wainawa and the trail to come out past Fetcham and along that way, I believe. So there is part of it going along the railway, actually, that's already been approved from Chester Road, that links up to Carrington Drive trail. So yeah, so the grand master plan then apparently was to go up to Holdsworth, but
Okay. Is there any other questions?
Oh, sorry, just, you did say that bringing it to council has been pushed out and that you're now meeting with the,
tonight,
your meeting. So
Yeah.
there's a hope or an expectation that by
Yeah.
consulting with the
they don't, they haven't proposed it as a discussion or a consultation. Residents are merely allowed to go along to get facts. That's how it's been proposed
Okay.
publicly.
Councillor Newman.
I just want to note that it was in the crier, which does go to all households in Carterton, so it was circulated. They did come to People and Places Advisory Group. I understand that Facebook doesn't reach everyone, so I agree on that. But they have publicised tonight as for questions and discussions. And I note that online it has been getting pretty nasty. So I think everyone needs to just be careful.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And just for clarification, I'm going tonight to the,
Meeting.
as a resident.
Yeah.
Not on behalf of the council, but if you see me there, don't be surprised.
That's a good thing. You going?
I can go,
Good
You
idea.
have to tell them if you
Who
want.
else is on the walk?
eat your pizza.
Who else is on the Walking Advisory Committee? Councillor Lucia.
I thought, sorry, Robin's not here, but I thought she was actually chairing that committee.
Okay, just noted.
As an independent person, she put her hand up too.
Yeah.
What committee?
She had the West Tarate Trail.
The hall.
She's on the.
Ah, is that the board?
Yeah. Okay, Andrew, thank you. And thank you to everybody that's come along to support. I guess just an observation that the reason that the Hoke Road Residents Group was formed and became very organised is because they got dissatisfied with the lack of people listening. I think we can all take lessons and let's see where we go from here, eh? Thank you very much for your attention. Right. That's proposed with, Treen Evans. Sure, Treen Evans. Oh, you're down here. Okay. There you
So we're going
go.
to carry on this
Yeah,
conversation.
yeah. Well, you've got your own time, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Trevor Jewis. I'm a resident of Norfolk Road, more specifically David Lowe's Lane. I live right on the corner of David Lowe's Lane, very close to Norfolk Road. not by choice. Well, we bought the house 33 years ago, so we didn't expect this influx of traffic and rail trail, local trails, etc. So we just want to voice our concerns regarding where this car park might be going to go for this trail, and also just the general safety aspects of the trail. There's so many driveways it has to cross. I don't know whether anyone's considered that, but it's going to be quite a mission to get for residents and cyclists, I think, to negotiate each other. I'm an avid cyclist myself, so I'm all for safe cycling, but I just, doesn't sort of cut with me having to cross all those driveways. And yeah, more specifically, where this car park is proposed to go. I feel there's room at the sale yards if it's going to go anywhere. I'm not dead against the trail itself, just there's a lot of safety aspects I think that need to be addressed, and yeah, want to know where the car park's going to go.
And I think, so I live past Trevor, down the lane, and I think the concern for us where it's not going to be outside our house like it is Trevor and Joe's, the fact is that we have enough, what would you call them, just viewers coming down our lane for no reason at all. There's only out my house and then there's another house. There's no reason for anyone else to be going down that lane as such, but we already get enough people, you know, just as it's getting dark coming down, and we know what happens when there are public car parks. It's where people congregate. You know, we have a lot of fast cars coming down Norfolk Road. Car enthusiasts, they like to call themselves. I'll call them boy racers. So, you know, the concern from a safety point of view for, you know, our privacy, you know, as Andrea pointed out as well, is quite there. When you look at one of the documents that's been submitted to council, it actually says in there that the car park is being looked at for the stockyards, but it has been made very clear to us that the ideal place is outside.
And the flyer, yeah.
So we're getting contradicting. So I think the clear message from us is that if it's the stockyards, that's, you know, it's, yeah, we don't want it anywhere near,
No,
pretty much.
more preferable, yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions? Marama?
No, I was thinking.
Saying good morning. Saying good morning.
Morena,
Yeah.
aroha mai.
Yeah, I do. You made me wince when you said about car parks, what they attract at night, because Belvedere Hall, until it was fenced off, had become a car park for people in the wee hours of the morning, doing all sorts of things. Yeah.
And I think, and I'd just like to, quite, you know, I'm not going to repeat everything Andrea said, but fully support what she was saying. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Resident.
Any other questions? Okay, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. To ponder later on. Most definitely. That's the end of public forum. We've used a bit of time, but I think it's valuable. Youth council views on the agenda.
Joseph, wait till we get to your item. Moving one of the chicken.
Youth council. Thank you, Robin. Okay. Right, item 6. Confirmation of minutes. I'll take them as read. Does anyone like to move that the minutes will be accepted as per an accurate account? That's the first set, which is minutes of 15th of February. Someone to move? Thank you, Councillor Aileen and Councillor Newman seconded. All in favour? Aye. Against? Minutes are accepted. Minutes of the extraordinary meeting, 6.2. I'd like to move their true and accurate record. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Della, all in favour? Aye. Motion's carried. No, any against? Motion's carried. 0.2. 7, straight into reports. That's the EDC appointment.
Kia ora. Perhaps if I could invite, with your wish, I could
Thank you.
invite Joseph Gillard to the table.
Thank you.
So One of the areas that we missed when we made council appointments to various committees was our appointment to the Cobblestones Charitable Trust. Joseph has been Carterton District Council's appointment to the Cobblestones Museum and the Charitable Trust for some time. He correctly pointed out that we had overlooked the fact that we need to refresh that nomination. So hence we brought a paper to you to refresh the nomination to Cobblestones. And I think Joseph is also looking for possibly a letter of support to go back to the trust from Carterton District Council. I guess I can't speak on behalf of Joseph, but he might want to give us a little bit of a background as to how the trust has got on in the last few years with you.
Please.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mayor Ron, councillors, I've been council's representative on the Cobblestones Trust for about 5 or 6 years now. I must say I greatly enjoy it. I'm one of three. No, the background of this is that each of the 3 councils in Wairarapa has an appointee. Lucy over there taking notes is one person from South Wairarapa. I don't know why Lucy's here. Nothing to do with me.
I'm not checking.
Anyway, we're a regional facility, as you understand from that makeup. The board also has representatives from various other organisations as well, plus a few co-opted people. We've been going 50 years, a bit over 50 years now. You would have seen in the newspaper in recent times that there were some problems, not problems, but situations evolving with the Greytown Trustlands Trust. 2/3 of our site is leasehold land. I'm very, very pleased to say that that's all been settled. We're just waiting for the paperwork, but our future in that regard is now assured. In terms of the operations of the museum, COVID obviously had a big effect on us. It dropped our turnover by about 60% because that really, we saw tourists who were coming by buses and all that sort of thing. So as a consequence, we took a strategic decision to redirect our energies to the collections rather than the 6 Category 2 buildings which make up the essence of the museum. So building on what we had done ourselves on our land with the building built about 8 years ago, we took professional advice as to the balance of the site and how we could improve the collections and their presentation. And we managed some funding from what's called the Museum Hardship Fund, which runs out of Te Papa. And we picked up about $50,000 there, and also some funds from Trust House, our local fundraising and so on. And we've been spending that in the last 2 or 3 years, or 2 years, in revamping our collections and their presentation. And the effect is excellent. We took professional advice, as I say, and personally, I believe that's the best money we could have spent. We have a woman here from Carterton who's been advising us, and she is simply superb. What we've been doing is revamping the displays with and looking at them through the eyes of children, because they basically are our market, them and their grandparents. And the grandparents know what they're looking at. The children don't really care, but they have like to be there and have a bit of fun. And it's that combination which we're looking to do better things with. And to that end, we are putting together a funding application for joining up and extending 2 of our old sheds, which were basically hay sheds from about 30 years ago, and hence a letter of support from council, because we were looking for funding from Eastern and Central and then lotteries. So that's in hand, and the funding is looking, from our point of view, very good so far, but letters of support are always welcome. Since the COVID's finished, we've gone away largely. Our visitor numbers have come back. January was our best month ever, with over 1,000 visitors. And whether that will continue or not, I don't know, but certainly bus tours are coming back and people off the street are coming back. We keep very careful statistics of where people come from. And probably, I think about 25% are local, the balance are from outside the region. And we see that as a good thing from every point of view. And as part of our sort of review of what we're doing and how we're doing it, we have upskilled ourselves in terms of running open days and music concerts and other forms of community engagement. And for example, in July, we have our regular open days, but we're also having a fashion show entitled Fashion Through the Ages. So we're looking to carry on our community engagement and better present ourselves in every way to the community. So then all going well, and your money is well invested, Mayor Ron.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Joseph. Anyone got any questions for Mr. Gillett? No? Yes.
Oh, Brian.
I just got one comment. You know, I really enjoy going down and having a pot around there and looking at history and it's really good to take people from outside the Wairarapa and they're like, I really do get a buzz, and people that I do take there are good. So yeah,
Thank you.
congratulations for the work you do and
Thank you.
council, Joseph, and keep it up if you can.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Done?
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
You know, sorry, they have to vote on your reappointment. What a gaffer.
Anyone got any questions as to his suitability? Controversial. For doing this task? Councillor Lawrence?
I was going to say that the discussion could get controversial.
Easily, actually. All right, now I think, so the recommendation to the council is that we confirm Mr. Joseph Gillett as the Carlton District Council Community Representative in Cobblestones Charitable Trust. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Newman, Councillor Gallen, second. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Congratulations. Congratulations. That may be.
No, it's good fun.
Yeah, okay. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you. 7.2, freedom camping. Here we go.
Invite Glenda.
Thank you, Glenda.
Freedom campaign. So we have been working on developing a draft freedom camping bylaw. So as many of you know, we don't currently have a bylaw in place. Late last year, we were lucky enough to receive some funding through NB to develop this bylaw. So we've been working with a consultant who's here today. Thank you, Russell. To work on developing this draft bylaw, and what we are hoping is that if everybody's happy with it today, we will look at going ahead and starting public consultation on this.
Yeah. When was the Freedom Camping Act passed? 2010?
I recall it was 2011.
Yeah. So there has been some changes. They've been working on some changes to the Freedom Camping Act.
I think government then.
Gee, who cares?
I care because this is all costs that we bear as a result of Parliament making a decision. We end up passing on. And it was all
Back in.
no, I was the mayor at the time.
What's the proposed bylaw?
It's got a question.
Yes, please.
Mayor on. Glenda, whilst I think it's a great idea to have camping bylaws, but enforcing it and administering it is obviously a cost back on council because it's not going to self-administer itself, is it?
No.
Can you fill us in with that?
I think so. At this stage, we're already enforcing what we can. So we're already out there having conversations with people that are overstaying. And what happens is it makes it really hard for us to be able to do anything. At that stage, we have to try and encourage them to leave. And in worst cases, contact police and try and get the police to come in and move them along. I think with this case, we have a little bit of guidance behind us to steer the direction. So I don't see it's going to have a significant impact on our current workloads. It's just gives us a little bit more strength behind us to enforce it.
Thank you.
Glenda, other than the areas that are identified as camping restricted or camping prohibited.
Yep.
Basically, anybody can pull off onto road reserve anywhere in the district, and as long as they're off the road, self-contained, they can stay for 3 nights.
Yep. I might-
Anyway, is that right?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
That's right.
The Freedom Camping Act. Pull up a chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Another wheelie one over there.
Was on.
Yeah, so the Freedom Camping Act, unless councils bring in a bylaw to prevent it, allows people to
Yeah.
freedom camp.
Anyway,
Yeah, I mean, I guess the point I was making was that the perception is that all freedom camping is bad, but it actually isn't. If people play by the rules, then they can enjoy what we enjoy. And as long as they don't leave a mark and hopefully spend money in and around our rohi, then it's actually quite compatible with everything else we do. Thank you.
depends what sort of freedom camper they are.
Well, as I say, if they're self-contained, and that doesn't distinct between big or small
With
or.
money and not camping as a lifestyle.
I mean, yeah, a lot of this has been driven by the Queenstowns.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right, yeah.
In regards to the area by the Gladstone River,
Yes.
the marae, whānau, believe that's marae land.
Okay.
I presume that it's probably reserve land. That would have been Māori land at some point, because they look at it and go, why are those people camping on our whenua? However, we've also expressed in the recent weeks the desire for access to camp along there, as the whānau used to back in the day there in the Flatpoint. In the past, we've had whānau members who've gone out to Flatpoint and different spots around the coast, but Flatpoint, and have pitched a tent and dug a long drop and lived there for 3 months of the entire summer. This law, this bylaw, would negate their ability to do that. They look at that opportunity at customary fishing, Taputai Moana, that's out Flatpoint, but at the river as practice of their ancestors and believe that that's their right. I'm just saying that that's what they think. And so under this bylaw, the potential for, not that anyone's doing it right this minute, I'm just saying that these things have happened and people have expressed just in the last couple of weeks the desire to want to be able to do that again. So this bylaw would see some conflict then with what I believe they're going to perceive as, you know, a customary right. Even all the land confiscation.
Does the current law allow people to camp like that indefinitely?
Well, someone has been camping down by the river.
So we've,
They're allowed to.
so at Flatpoint, we're talking about our reserve, so just our reserve. That currently has no camping signs up, but again, that's unenforceable at the moment. So we've included that in here as a no camping space, but that's just on our reserve. I believe there's further land along there.
Yeah.
Which is by the river is further down, isn't it?
Just next to the bridge where that space is where the ablutions have been put in.
Okay.
And along that waterfront
Yeah.
is the traditional place that they would camp.
Yeah.
And I just know every time we go past there, my mum goes, what's that person doing camping on our whenua?
Yeah.
And not that she strictly minds, but the point that she's making is she believes, as the marae believes, that that's their whenua.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely sure it's coming under Parks and Reserves land.
Okay.
Majority of local council parks and reserve land came from Māori reserve land and was changed over in the law to be administered by council at some point in the past.
Okay.
So it's something I think that might bear out some further discussion.
Well, in the consultation and the recommendations, it's stated we'll go to consultation. That's where they might be able to table something. And from the Papu.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? So yes, councillor Fredman. His worship.
Linda, is there actually whether you call it temporary or not, a temporary toilet out at Gladstone River Reserve and at the,
Yep, so we've got compostable toilets out at Gladstone. We are working on putting a compostable toilet at Kokoto. And then at,
cliffs there is.
yeah.
So my question is why, if there is that facility there, why is it just restricted to vehicles and not to someone with a tent? Because there is facilities there on site. It'd be different if they were parking on the road reserve somewhere and there's not a toilet facility, but because those sites, and you're looking at putting it at Kokoto as well, yeah, I'm a little bit inclined to.
Well, in those reserves, you don't need a self-contained vehicle because the facilities are there.
All right.
So tenting is not freedom camping.
So the council can set restrictions and they can also identify where people might not need self-contained vehicles, which the act requires.
Defines it as self-contained vehicles.
Yeah, so what the council.
Meaning of, here we go. Carry on.
The council's identified these areas where camping is encouraged and the facilities are there. So you can bring a tent there and continue without needing a self-contained vehicle.
Meaning of freedom camp. Freedom camp means to camp other than at a camping ground within 200 metres of a motor vehicle accessible area or the mean low water spring line of any sea or harbour or within 200 metres of a formed road or a Great Walks track using one more of the following: a tent, a caravan, car, camper van, house truck or motor vehicle. It's pretty descriptive in there. I get it, yeah. Okay.
Last consideration is our homeless community. There's people who are camping there are homeless. That's why they're camping there. And there's little spots in Masterton that we've seen that happening around reserves next to rivers. But definitely down at Gladdy, they've been camping for a long time. Those people living there, and probably because they're homeless.
Yeah, so we've been in communication with those particular people. They have asked to stay on for a longer period. We have been encouraging them to move on, especially safety wise for them over the winter period with the river rising. So we've been communicating.
What's MSD's response? Who's got the responsibility for that?
The responsibility lies at MSD, but it also relies at the individual level to go and have those conversations with MSD. So we would be encouraging them to go and have those conversations. Yeah.
And okay. What's
so that is the options of the AMP Society as well. Yeah, they've got their camping up there, so it's quite a reasonable rate. So.
Yes, Councillor.
A question about flooding, following on to that. Whose responsibility is it when the river starts rising to alert those people? Because I was told when we had that flooding event recently, there was a couple of people parked at that Gladstone Reserve. And I know it's common sense, but I'm just wondering, does that fall back on us?
So normally the alert is from us to a known campground. But where it is just a reserve area, we wouldn't normally go through and alert anyone in a reserve because we wouldn't know if there was people there. So normally what often happens is it's around our known campground areas.
Should there be a sign there that says?
Yeah, warning.
That's good.
Yeah. Then it puts the onus back on the campers to be alert.
Put the onus back. They know how to pitch a tent.
South Wairau had the same problem with Nawi earlier in the year, where they closed their campground because they couldn't actually inform the people in time for an alert where the water was rising.
During the Auckland flooding and during the Cyclone Gabriel, we had those silver fences into phones, and they went to phones by region, by cell tower pings. So wasn't the whole country gets the alert when the Auckland flooding was happening. If that was something that's, on the radar of the Civil Defence Network here, I mean, it took 2 days in Auckland, but then they got better the next time it happened. It's a true story. And so that, as a measure, is something definitely could be looked into, because you can ping it to the local river areas. Cell phones in those areas will get that ping.
So long as they still exist.
So,
So long as the cell phone towers still exist.
obviously, all is true.
As they
All is true.
didn't up into yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, so we have the report, everyone's read it, there's two, oh, sorry, Councillor Brittany.
Thanks, Bridget. So I'm just, I don't know if I'm coming from this the wrong way, but in the discussion in the second paragraph, it mentions how, under our reserve management plan, and I don't know, do we have to look at our reserve management plan that campers must have a self-contained vehicle to use these 3 reserves? So do we need to look at our
Yeah, so we have to do an amendment to our reserve management plan. So I've noted that in the last paragraph of the discussion. Means there's an amendment to the reserve management plan.
Okay. Does not address freedom camping on council outside.
and that allows for someone with a tent.
And therefore freedom.
To camp in those
3
places, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Right. So let's move to the recommendations where that we received the report and agreed to, and secondly, we agreed to proceed to public consultation under section 83. I'd like to take those both as one. Someone to move, please. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Ayling. All in favour? Aye. Against? Motion's carried. That's both as one. Thank you.
Thank you, Tane.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. 7.3 Kapai Carterton, Carrington Park. Come on.
On.
We're like.
I'm starting to be a shrinking violet now.
All right.
Oh,
Would you
thank
like
you
to
guys. Yeah, we're happy to speak to it.
Yes.
So this report, we've got 2 things to look at. We've got the developed design, which is just attached for your reference. And then we've got the conversation around the water play. So just to recap, back in March 2022, the council has agreed stage 1 and stage 2 of the proposed plan for Carrington Park. Within that, the team's been away. They've been working on the developed design, working on the detailed design, and they've come out with a little bit more information around the water play and what that looks like. The reason that we're bringing this back to you is because this has a significant impact on the operational side of the Carrington Park process. Do you want to add a bit of background about the water play? Talk about it a little bit?
Sure, happy to. Water has always featured in the Carrington Park project. At the very outset, water was discussed at the initial hui with key stakeholders, council included, Mana Whenua and Kapai Carterton. The feel at the time was that council were a little bit concerned about the perception out to community of using water in a playful manner when it was a restricted resource in many months over summer, and that it was obviously has issues with sustainability. Those present had robust conversation around the importance of the identity piece that this park will play for Carterton, how it will speak to our water in terms of our rivers, in terms of our wetlands, in terms of the sea, in terms of the 350 kilometres of water races, and the importance of educating our tamariki around the use of water. And so it was agreed at that initial meeting before the co-design, before the project got any legs, that any form of water use in the park would be done in a sustainable and educational manner, and that it wouldn't just be a frivolous use of water. So that's the approach that this water play coming to you today has been taken right from the start 3.5 years ago. There's been a lot of research and work gone into talking to other users of the assets similar to this one. And there's been a lot of conversations with council staff is responsible for managing this type of waterway asset as well, to really understand the impact that it's going to put back on you as a council. Our issue is, our thing is that we don't want to create a beautiful park and then leave it as a bugbear for our community to have to manage and look at. It's trying to do with this best of intent.
Are there any questions? Councillor
Thanks,
Craig.
Bishop. I've got quite a number of questions. I don't have to do them all at once. Other people have questions as well. One of them was to do with the skate park upgrade that's mentioned in there. Does that, I think we had $60,000 put aside. Is that being used for the
Yes.
for the design?
We've got 80,000 in long-term plan put aside for the skate park. So that will be used into the development once they've got their design done. It'll be used because it was targeted for their maintenance. It was targeted for revamping the bowl. So we're just going to pull that into their design.
Part of that project. Okay, thank you. The next question was around the total estimated operational costs for the park. So the maintenance, yearly maintenance and so forth. What figure was that put at? Because I was just trying to get that in my head, plus the
For the whole park.
Oh, yes. So from stage 1 and stage 2, once that's completed, and then to look at adding in the water park on top of that to get a better idea of what the costs are going to be.
Yeah, no, that's part of the next step of the plan. So at the moment it's the developed. Once this is agreed, then it goes to detailed, and that's when they start to break down the costs and we get the actual.
Okay.
So just on a parks and reserves basis, we don't separate out Carrington Park from Howard Booth Park or Sparks Park, or that's.
Yeah, I'm thinking of all the new equipment that's going to be going in there. It's going to be a lot more work.
Yes.
And depending on what the equipment is, it could be a heck of a lot more maintenance and a lot more expensive then.
So all of the proposed new equipment that is going to be detailed shortly, they all come with obviously guarantees and warranties that last between 10 and 15 years or sometimes more. So there is that kind of that piece. Yeah.
Happy for me to carry on with someone else.
Carry on.
Ask questions. Just down in your options.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it like if we vote against option 1, will the same input be put into the remaining part? Because there's a lot of information that's being stated alongside the water play, but then you go down to the option 2, there's just like one line. Is everything going to carry on with option 2 as well, or is it the community who is involved in it, the community group are like, if we don't get the water play, we're kind of gonna take a backward step? That's just what I've looked at from the options.
That's an interesting question. I think there will be people that will be really disappointed because the whole story behind the park, which was designed by our community, is around the story of the comet crashing along the banks of Pukapu. And we need water for them to survive. So there's certainly elements of the water play, and that's why we say this design has been done in a way that really speaks to the identity. And it's not just the frivolous, lots of pads and lots of things. It's actually quite a small and bespoke water area with the Kukapu there and a few little sprays which can go on timer, can be turned off at a moment's notice. And so it's being done educationally and respectfully and sustainably. So it's not, I think that reducing the water, it can be done, and, taking the water out, obviously a park can be designed without water.
This misses that part of
It misses that part of the story. And it also misses what our community have really, and if you go back to the original proposals that we put forward and put through council. Kids want a new playground and water play, you know, out of the hundreds of things. And it's not just the kids, it's.
Yeah, my kids wanted a lot too.
I actually am really grateful for the co-creation aspect of working with mana whenua and tangata whenua to bring that story, because you look for authentic engagement in our community to bring, you know, aspects of biculturalism and in a genuine way that speaks to the heart of that story, which is a significant story. And I know Raz had a lot of part to do in that. And so I actually just really value that input into an authentic and genuine expression of sitting and working together as people and in a sustainable way and thinking about water in that way. It sounds absolutely perfect to me. And then we get to the point of how we pay for it and how we maintain it. I mean, absolutely perfect, beautiful. And if we're looking for expressions of how that's been done in respectful ways around the rest of the Carlton area, you know, this is going to be one of those ones that is truly has a special significance, and there's not many others. So got my support.
Are there any other, I just want to make a couple of comments with Brian. Yeah.
Thanks, Mayor Ron. On top of page,
Yeah, oh, you've got more to go. Still got a lot more to go. Yeah.
top of page.
Councillor Dallin.
Operation approach, the water testing, operation with CD doing the water quality 70K, operation with external contractor doing it is 50K. External contractor cheaper? I can't
Yeah,
understand
so
that.
we've had quite extensive conversations with WSP around what the operational budget would look like. Where we've landed is that this is a 7-day operation. It would be us having our staff rostering on a 7-day shift. We would have after hours call outs. There's an additional workload, potentially additional capacity of a team member to support the operation of this. It did open up a bigger conversation around the potential of 3 waters going. What does that look like for the pool and this as well? So what is the level of the parks going to pick up? So there's been some really useful conversations, but the additional costs were based around the fact of potentially an additional staff member.
For 2 days that we currently aren't rostered.
Yeah, 7-day cycle and on-call.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Explains it. Cool.
But is that only for 4 months?
It is only 4 months, yeah.
An additional staff member for 2 days, only for 4 months, is going to cost us $70,000.
So this is the total.
I know.
The difference between.
That's the difference between your external contracted cost and doing it internally. That's why, because we are changing the level of service on the Parks and Reserves team from being 5 days a week to being 7 days a week to cover this.
As well as anything else, or specifically this?
Specifically this.
But in the report, if you read further on in the report, there's actually an option for 25K for someone who might have the responsibility of the garden pool.
Yeah.
And the Marston pool as well.
So WSP went out and sought quotes from a few contractors. One of those contractors put it up and said if they manage the pool, they would manage the pool and do the splash pad, and this would be the cost for the splash pad with that. So that was there. I haven't put that into the report. We've currently got a current contractor for the pool. We're not looking at changing him at this stage, but potentially down the line, that could be an option if our contractor decides to not continue.
Any other questions? Yes, of course.
Thanks, His Worship. Just down in the report, the asset lifespan, M&E, is that mechanical and electrical? Brian, did you know that?
Can you help me?
Would it be mechanical and electrical?
It would be, yes.
So that's only 10 years, and I'm just thinking about the costs involved in what council has to do for pumping in Lincoln Road. How much of the 930K is actually to do with mechanical and electrical, the pumping and all that side of things? Because it would just get a good idea if it's only going to last 10 years, are we up for $400,000, $300,000, $200,000 replacement.
Underground water tank.
Yes, I don't.
Pumps and kinetic
I think a
waters.
lot of it would be with, a lot of that costs that you set out. the
Can
930.
Page-
we take an
page
action?
59.
Happy to take an action and back to, we could note an action, Robin, and we could get back to councillors with. That's a good question. It's not in the report. then
There's a
we
bit of
don't-
detail, page 59. I was reading that, and I was trying to focus. My eyes weren't too good that hour a night, some of this. You're looking at flow rates are quoted in there, which must give you, Brian, Councillor Della, some indication of the size of the pump.
Yeah.
And I guess, and you're working on timings, so how long those pumps, what duration, what type of pumps you're going to be using, that amount of water, and it'll be intermittent, so it's going to be shutting down and turning on. I guess that's your control systems, management of the water run. I was looking at the size of the underground concrete tank, which is pretty impressive, and that's got a 60-year life on that.
Is that collecting rainwater?
No, it's collecting the chlorinated water to recycle it. So that my only worry is the water that runs off into the grass, having looked at the rust in the pool, what chlorine's done to the steel. What's the chlorine going to do to the ground? But it says it evaporates and disappears, so.
It's, the
see.
proposed area has got a brick area around it, so it's going to be quite a way before it gets to the grass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a runoff area in there. It's quite interesting, actually.
That's correct.
Yeah. Any other questions, Councillor Cretney?
That's it. Thank you.
Yes. Councillor Aileen.
I just had a quick question. Is $70,000 with that twice daily testing still the expected need? Still twice daily testing?
Yes, so it has to have twice daily testing, but as we've said, that is a really conservative budget. So we're not going to know the true operational cost. This is the absolute highest it'll be.
Right.
There's been lots of conversations with other councils as well around their costs. And it comes back down to that staffing and the testing that's required.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And second question, yesterday, funnily enough, I stopped in at Avalon Park in the hut, which has the water play and that kind of thing. And it was a slightly dreary, rainy day. And I was very aware of the fact that it was windy and all the pumping that I was doing was going everywhere. So I thought there is a level of wastage on a rubbishy day using that kind of equipment. And also all of the channels were all full up with leaves. So it's not just the testing of the water that would be a time consuming part for council, it'd be a big job keeping it clean as well.
So included into that budget is the time it takes for the team to go down and clean it.
Yeah.
They're proposing at this stage once a day, going out and clearing out all the leaves, doing that.
Yeah.
Usually we'll do that in the morning and then circle back around to the next morning. So that's all included in the timeframes with those budgets.
And it's within the 70,000. Okay. Thank you.
Supplementary from Councillor Aileen's question. So if the wind was blowing the chlorinated water around the place, will we be required to do soil testing to ensure that we know what the state of the soil is, or would you don't care about that? Chlorine's, I don't know. I'm just keeping thinking of these. I keep looking at these rusty dams.
Most of the area
beams
around
here.
here, grass.
Yeah.
So
If it's all grass,
park and trees, so.
Yeah. I think the other side of that to note is that it is automated and run by an app.
we don't get much wind here, eh?
We have not at all.
No.
But we do have the ability to just go onto an app and turn it
Yeah.
off. So if it is gale force winds, I'd say let's just turn it off.
Yeah.
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 His worship, just in comment to yours, if you think about garden and outdoor pools, there's a lot of grass around the outdoor pools and that's green.
Green. Of course it is. Yeah.
But under beach.
All right. There you go. So
Can I ask,
that's Councillor Newman.
can the water play be kind of on a timer? So say you've got, I think you proposed it running 9 till 5, maybe. But if there's no one there, can it be like on a timer, like the one in Christchurch, where the kids go and press it and it runs for half an hour while there's actually kids engaged with it?
Yeah, it is on a timer.
Oh, it is.
It's a button that you press to activate it. Yeah, so it's not consistently.
Cool. And then my other question was around automated water testing. Has that been like, it is, I was talking to husband last night about the automated water testing. That is a thing and it is developing more and more. I'm just wondering whether we should look to what it is now and what potentially it could be in a couple of years, because that could be saving us a heck of a lot of money.
2 tests a day, automated water testing, that's perfect.
Okay. I circulated an email and got absolutely no response from anybody. I'm used to that, but tangentially, possibly to what we're talking about, there was some suggestion that of support in the community for a statue of Georgina Via. My suggestion was that we, instead of a statue, she may have felt this sort of facility was the more appropriate memorial.
So,
Yeah.
we've put that idea onto People and Places agenda.
Okay.
Next meeting, which is in 2 weeks' time.
And I've already given a commitment to the executors of her estate and her close personal friends that whatever conversations we have in that space will be floated by them, because they are very clear in their head about what Georgina would want and what she would shy away from, would have shied away from. In fact, she made her views very, very well known. Let me assure you, in the last 7 days of her life, about those things. So I know there's a lot of feeling and I know there's a lot of things, and we'll talk about times and how we're going to handle that. But yeah, park that one off. But yeah, I think I get the sense of feeling, but I'm being moderated by Scotty and Mel and and a few others. So can
Say one more thing.
Yes.
I just want to share with everyone, all of the families I've spoken to with young kids are totally in support of this water play aspect. It is a thing that will really attract the kids down to that park and make it used. And we have it nowhere else in the Wairarapa really at the moment. And I just think it is such a key aspect of the park. So I just want to share that I really support it. And from all of the people I've spoken to with young children who will be users of this area, they are in total support of it as well.
I think we need to move, so I'll put the resolution. I start by saying I'm going to support it. I've always got more questions. I know, we'll have some discussion. Yes, yeah, we will. On that view, more questions?
Well, I just want to say, Lucy, I think the work that you've done and what Kāpua's done is absolutely. I'm just thankful for the process that you've taken the community through to get to this point. I still have concerns about having water play there, just because I don't know what the overall costs are going to be on our ratepayer going forward once the park is completed, whether that's in 2, 3, 4, 5 years or 10 years. But I also look at the $930,000 that's estimated, and that doesn't include project management, design, consenting, procurement costs. So it could potentially rise by $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. And I also look at the fact that it's only going to be running 4 months of the year. And I think, how could that $930,000 be spent on other aspects of the park upgrade, which are going to be put to the side, that don't include water play, that the children are going to get benefit out of for 12 months of the year? So I find it quite difficult with really going for this process because of those two reasons. So thank you.
Just in response, I hear what you're saying about 12 months versus the 4 months of the year, that it's sometimes getting up to 30+ degrees when you live in town and you can't go to the river. And if you can't afford to go in the pool, thankfully we can go in the pool for free. Thankfully, people drive to Carterton to go to the free pool because you can't go to the rivers for a swim. And true story.
Yeah.
And so heaps of families I know from Marsden drive to Carterton to come to swim. But the pool play with families who are walking, enjoying the park, having something different to go to for those 4 months of the year is a valuable thing to do for 4 months of the year in the heat of the day.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Just a few comments. One is in the report around under discussion around enhanced property values. I'm not sure I'd use that as a selling point, that houses close to the water park go up in value and council gets more rates. That's probably not something that I'd be putting in the sales brochure. But I guess, as a parent, particularly of a youngster, I know how attractive these water play areas are. I remember when my daughter was young, we actually changed our route from Otorohanga to Wellington to go by a Whanganui because of their water park feature. And that was how significant the attraction was. I also think about that, you know, the recommendation here is not to fund that water park. That's a separate challenge for the community. This is around council accepting the increased maintenance costs of that water feature. And when I think about the increased maintenance costs that council accepts and assumes after developments, for example, reserves, a whole lot of other things, I actually think it's council's business as usual. It's what we do. If we're looking to continue to support our existing local people and visitors, and also with an eye to the future, I just think this is too good an opportunity to rain on its parade at this point. I mean, there's still a lot of water, you know, pardon the
Under the bridge.
go under that bridge, such amazing water conservation. I mean, this could be an academic discussion, because if the money's not available to create the park, then there's no extra maintenance. But at this point in time, I really want to support the next steps. And I think if there's an increase, there will be an increased running costs for the council and the park, but I still think that the benefits outweigh that commitment. And I was a councillor in Porirua City when the Aotea Lagoon Water Park came on. I know it copped a lot of flack in terms of meeting its budget, and you know, there was a lot of interplay on social media around cost blowouts and things like that. But once it was open, and taking Marama's point, birthday parties, whānau, you know, would come and put tents up and be there the whole day. And just the interaction and the benefits to people. I know our swimming pool here is free compared to Porirua, but Carrington Park is such a wonderful space that I just see this as a massive benefit for Carterton, and I think people will change their route coming through the Wairarapa to take advantage of it. That's my personal opinion. So I will be supporting this because I think it's wonderful.
I just do want to go around, so I'm going to take these as closing comments actually. So Councillor Gallen, you haven't had a chance to have.
I've been to it, but Jekyll and Hyde ratepayers on the shoulder, but I like Dale, I do think, and his people went out of their way to do a water park the other day. I do think it'd be a good thing for Carterton. I do, really do.
Councillor.
Again, tangentially, I'd see it as almost part of a high street rejuvenation. I think it would be a key traffic generator for the town when everything in terms of property development, everything else sort of hangs off a number of people who are prepared to stop and do things. So, yeah.
Councillor Ayling?
Yeah, I'm finding this one really hard. I have a young son. I like parks. I you know, I'm using the ratepayer base in the hut to enjoy their water park. So why shouldn't I support it in our town? I totally can see that hypocrisy there. But I'm concerned about the big proportion of our population who won't use it because they don't care about a park because they live here and it's already expensive, and they're going to feel that this is another thing to be added to their rates bill. And so I can definitely see the benefit. And if this is something that's going to make our town come alive, then yeah, I want that because our town is looking a bit sad at the moment. But I don't know if it's a necessary thing or it's a nice to have. And so that's where I'm sitting.
I am going to jump over, if you don't mind, I guess straight to Councillor Della because he hasn't had a real chance to.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, as Grace has said, it is in the nice to have basket, but I also think it is, as has already been pointed out, to attract people to our town, we have to have some of these nice to haves, and it's a recreational thing, and I think that the actual adding more recreational aspect to our park. And, you know, kids are going to get some exercise out of it. It's got to be good. So, yeah, I'm in favour of it.
So my closing comments would be that I share a little bit of concern that's already been expressed around page 47, some of the stated benefits. I continue to hear what social health benefits different things are going to do, and no one ever has an ability to measure that. We certainly won't see some of the people I know should be out running and in the gymnasium in that water park. Children will be, yes, definitely, but we won't make the difference to certain adults in our community who don't exercise and look after their health. So I have a question marks around those things. Increased tourism, I definitely think. Enhanced property, well, Dale's covered that. Job creation, one person. Water testing. No, I don't know what the numbers are there. Grant opportunities, great, fantastic. I think, you know, for me, the caution is always when people model and predict out what it's going to do economically, I'm always skeptical till the money comes in and then you do the back check. But the thing that I get this for me that stands out is the bulk of the funding is going to come from outside. It's the operational cost, which comes in at 0.5% on today's figures on top of everybody's rates, which kicks in on completion a few years out from here. So this is to the future, and by then, hopefully the population's increased and we've got better rates to take on, I think. So I think the big thing will be the standout is that within the Wairarapa, there'll be nothing like it.
Build up.
And if that sets us apart, like I cast my mind back to the few thousand people who petitioned against building this facility and told us we were all wrong. And now you can't find anyone who says it was wrong decision. So it's with some reservations, seriously around operational costs. Let's just do it and be judged and be damned in the future. But I think the thing that will stand out is that, and I do, you know, I'm a bit here and there about, I see all the kids in the Mangatātere stream swimming who don't go to the pool. They're all our whānau, mainly. And I see them down at the Ruamahanga because they don't want to be at the pool. They don't. And pool's supervised and safe and sensible. Down the river, unsafe, dumb, and have fun. And so there's a split there, but I think we need to go. So can we move, firstly, someone move, we received the report. Councillor Cretney, seconded by Councillor Lawrence. All in favour? Aye. Motion and against? Motion's carried. Receive the, can't take all those as one. Receives the developed design document. Councillor Dalla, move seconded. Councillor Gallen, all in favour? Aye. Aye. Anyone against? No. Motion's carried. Approves the water play elements of the design and agrees to option 1 and commits to the ongoing operational costs of the facility. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Newman. All in favour? Aye. Aye. Against? 1. Councillor Cretney. You wish that to be recorded? Yes, please. Wish it to be recorded. Councillor Cretney. Motion's carried. Fourth recommendation, notes the inclusion of these costs will be added to the annual and long-term plans on the completion of the park. Someone to move? Councillor Newman, seconded by Deputy Mayor. All in favour? Aye. Aye. Against? Councillor Cretney, 1. Motion's carried. Congratulations. Thank you. Okay.
Your time today.
And thank you, Councillor Cretney. Thanks for all the background work. Yeah. Yeah.
We appreciate
Good
your
luck.
time today. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
One thing I do appreciate is people, you know, in any walk of life, in any governance committee, who I appreciate, and I want to thank you all because I know this has been challenging for a number of us, and I'll say us, but it's
healthy debate.
The fact that you read the papers, ask the questions is what matters at this table. 7.4, communities for local democracy. I take it as paper's been read. Are there any questions or comments anyone wishes to make?
The only comment I would make is that obviously the Times Age see the agenda, and this is the only item on the agenda they thought was worth mentioning in the paper. Hasn't gone entirely unnoticed.
We did make the paper on the future for local government, I believe, this morning.
Yeah, and that was great.
I just reiterated your comment.
Yes. I'd love to see his report.
Are there any questions? Do we wish to move straight to recommendation? Yes, councillor.
Sorry, I still have reservations about committing a membership to C4LD. The information we're receiving now is basically all that we would receive if we join C4LD. Is one question. I know Jeff might be able to answer that for me. I can't, honestly, I cannot see any advantage in joining because we're receiving the information now. The disadvantage, if we do join, we may get slugged with a membership fee later, is what I see. At that stage, it's another debate, obviously, but yeah, basically, Jeff, the advantages I can't see.
The information that we're getting from C4LD at the moment is already public. You are correct. So that information is in the public domain. Being a member will allow, particularly probably the mayor, to participate in the development of that information before it becomes public.
Yeah. And there is a difference in policy direction between C4LD and LGNZ, and the difference in the way in which they lobby and pressure their view. I do note that Auckland's resignation was pretty much around costs from LGNZ, but we've all experienced, those of us that have been to the LGNZ conferences of late have all come away with the same view. And that, and I say 3 mayors, the conversation about what's the benefit of staying in LGNZ is alive and hot right now. And I think the key difference is that C4LD is assertive and strongly stands in representing the people who elect them, and LGNZ seems to be very subdued and placated. So at the moment, if the fees was to come back, if they were then to come back and say, look, we're going to need more money, and we'd redress from there.
Perhaps I could clarify if we were asked for membership fees, it's not included in our annual plan, and I would bring that back to council as an unbudgeted item, and you'd be able to reconsider at that time whether you wish to continue with your membership.
Yeah, and
Sorry.
Councillor Ayling, no.
I was just going to ask what the cost is to our membership for LGNZ each year.
24,000 for this last financial year.
This is only 15.
I think there are some councillors who've trimmed their LGNZ contribution, matched it across to C4LD to double that both ways. Martima.
Councillor Ayling, this is free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the minute.
Yeah.
The comment you made about we are able to get information publicly that is publicly available. Joining this would give information before it's publicly available. How is that?
So it would participate in developing the policy. So the 10-point plan that's been developed by C4LD was developed in partnership with those mayors. If we were a member, we would be involved in developing a plan like that. So we would participate in the development prior to its release.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, just to be clear, this agenda item is specifically around should we participate with C4LD. It's not a comparison between C4LD and LGNZ, because that's a whole nother piece of work that we should be discussing at some point, because obviously there's local government funding, there's Mayor's Task Force for Jobs, there's a whole lot of benefits that accrue through membership of LGNZ that far outweigh our membership costs. And if we were going to go down that track, that would be a whole another piece of work for us to consider the comparative merits. But I'm comfortable with this as it's stated here in the recommendation. because I guess we've got that safety net that if there are any costs that come forward from C4LD in the future as a result of our membership, then it would be unbudgeted and it would bring it back to this table for us to consider all of those other wider implications.
Hold up.
Councillor Newman.
I just think we need to make sure we note that by joining them, our logo will be used and branding on all this, on C4LD statements, whether we agree with them or not. I just think we need to be aware of that.
Yep.
I don't know, that kind of,
Same with LGNZ.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they put out statements that I don't agree with, I'm stuck with it.
Yeah.
Which happens. Yeah.
Well, this voluntary membership, surely if they put out statements that we're completely diametrically opposed to as council, we'll go, oh, there you go, see you later, member.
Don't worry, Marama, I make my views very well known to Helen and to Gordon, as you know. Dan Gordon. God, I should have lifted it down there with him. All right, time. Move that we receive the report. Deputy Mayor, Councillor Aileen, all in favour? Aye. Against? Motion's carried. Notes that Mayor Ron Marcus signed the Mayor's consensus on Three Waters reform. I'll move that. Seconded Councillor Cretney, all in favour? Aye. Against? Motion's carried. I'll take the applies because that will either one way or the other rule out the other, won't it? Cross out does not apply because if it votes down, then we won't be applying. Next recommendation agrees that CDC applies to be a member of Communities for Local Democracy. Moved by Councillor Cretney, seconded by Councillor Ailing. All in favour? Aye. Aye. Against? Right. 1. Councillor Down. 2. Councillor Newman. Do you wish those recorded?
Yep. Okay.
Yep. Please record. Motion's carried. Thank you. And straight to 7.5. Adoption of the Wider Upper Smoke and Vape-Free Policy.
Volunteer to, your worship.
Time.
So we need to break at 11.
Welcome, so.
Good morning, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor, councillors and Marama. I will take the paper as read and a couple of points I would like to touch base on. This policy is much more an educational policy. As with any policies, it sets out the direction of council, but it is not something that we can go in there and infringe people and fine them. Some of the key benefits of having the Wairarapa smoke and bringing in vape-free policies as well is when people come to council wanting to use council facilities and the parks and the reserves, there's a very, very clear directive that they should be having anti-smoking, anti-vaping signage at these events. You will note that the map in Schedule 1 for the Carlton area, you might think that it looks quite small. It encompasses Carrington Park and it's only a town centre map. So if we start mapping every single area that we want, it will get incredibly big, but the schedule can be changed by a council resolution publicly notified. We didn't want to end up in a situation that by doing any amendments to this policy that we had to go through a full formal process. So it really just does encompass our main street, Holloway Street, Carrington Park, and then you'll see in the policy itself that there's other areas of council facilities such as outdoor seating, council buildings, other council parks and reserves that are by default smoke and vape free. You will also note in the policy that unfortunately we don't have any ability to limit the number of vape shops or their locations under this policy. That is still a central government regime. I would suspect that when that document does get reviewed, that will be on the minds of central government. When we start seeing 3 vape shops popping up in a small town, you sit there and think, is that too many?
Or 3.
Or 3 too many. I'm probably the most inappropriate person to be.
Keep my best tight in my pocket.
But I would like to just note that Councillor Cherry Campbell and Councillor Cretney sat on the working party, and I'd like to thank them for all their work in getting the policy to this stage, and happy to answer some questions, or Councillor Cretney might be able to answer are the ones from a political side of it.
So could we have a discussion around including outside of schools? In that,
The footpaths on
the council controlled parts, the footpaths and the congregate. I'm just thinking, for example, outside schools that pick up and drop off, there's whānau are waiting for children and so forth. And people are vaping, and that's not a great look for our tamariki. And schools, inside schools are already smoke and vape free, or at least we do our best to hold that line. And I just think it would be a good continuation of that message.
Just supplementary to that, I note on page 71, the comments, we also understand anecdotally through former Wairarapa Youth Council that vaping is prevalent in schools. So if young people are vaping, do we end up buying it when we were to make it not allowable for vaping outside of school? I mean, we don't have a college like Kuranui, do we? So I guess it's not the issue, but.
I mean, it's more about.
Is it enforceable?
No, this whole policy is educational, not enforceable. It's
a
more
messaging
around
thing.
the message we're sending to our community, particularly our vulnerable. I mean, we could debate for hours about the merits of vaping over cigarettes and so forth. I think it's totally abhorrent myself, and I don't want our children exposed to any sort of inhalation in and around their pickup points. That's my personal view.
Except when they want to decriminalise marijuana.
In Australia, and it's a central government law, but it's probably something you might want to consider, is that smoking and vape free 10 metres from any public access or which means any shop, any garage, any school building in the footpath area. So within 10 metres of a publicly available access to a public shop or space of the entry point, which means, you know, you go to the beach and the entire beach is smoke free all the way up and down. No one's smoking. I sat for an hour to count how many people smoked. Literally did that because the legislation was going. And I didn't count one, not one, on Maroubra Beach and in the shopping area the entire night, the entire hour. Literally sat there with the purpose of doing it. And I thought this was really quite effective legislation, because then outside at 3 a.m. when I was sober driving people in Perth and trying to pick them up, there was nobody, and hundreds of young people on the streets moving between bars. Nobody was smoking or vaping. Couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. And then you look down, just down the alleyway, and you could see about 2 people.
It's interesting.
If there was any. So I think that was quite an effective way to look at it, because you can do a map and go, here's the street, and then you've got to add it to that street. Or you could say within 10 metres of a publicly available space and doorway.
Interesting that we are, again, page 71, 5% above the national average in terms of smoking in the Wairarapa.
Probation.
That's from Compass. Yeah, that's interesting. Are there any other questions? I think it's pretty straightforward. Sorry. Yes, go, Councillor Newman. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to note that it's not only high school kids that we need to be worried about. It is.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
That's what I was meaning. All schools, you know, childcare. Like, I mean, for me, it's a kind of, I don't want to get into identifying specific, but the bylaw should state that vaping is not an acceptable, policy, sorry. That you know, vaping is not acceptable outside our education facilities.
And then another part I just wanted to ask, and I might have missed it, but places like Howard Booth Park, when you've got everyone playing football there on a Saturday and there's guys on the sideline vaping, are they like in the bylaw, is Howard Booth part of the area that's
Council owned or managed open spaces, including parks and reserves, cemeteries, playgrounds, sports fields, grounds, pools, or
it's just more an education piece that's not.
Yeah, the only thing that we've identified in the schedules is what we're deeming to be our town centres.
Yeah.
Everything else is included in there. So I was just trying to take on Deputy Mayor Williams's point of how do we bring in the footpaths in front of schools? And I don't think we do it with that map schedule. And Councillor Cretney, we might potentially an additional resolution and outside the front of all public schools. So in terms of our businesses on the footpath, that schedule goes building to building. So that would stop anybody standing in a doorway, vaping or smoking. So I'm just wondering how we do bring that.
Can you bring it back? Align it with our interim speed management roading.
Correct.
So outside Kuta, outside primary childhood education centres and more.
I'm not sure that we would need to go out and further consult on outside of the
schools.
Outside of schools. However, that is something that we could ask, and if need be, we bring the policy back once Mask is mastered and South Wairarapa are not adopting it until the 5th of April.
Put another resolution.
Just, can I just clarify? The idea is that this policy will be across the three councils?
Yes.
And it's been, what we're looking at now has been agreed across the three councils?
It's been agreed by the Wairarapa Policy Working Group.
Right.
But it still needs to come to council for formal decisions for each of the three councils.
Right.
And each of the three councils needs to make its formal decision on it.
I guess what I was thinking is if we start tinkering with it, is that going to create a whole new round of?
We're the first to be hearing this, aren't we? So, I mean.
And it is elected members' decision to accept or not the policy, or to put some amendments in. And it could either be a resolve to amend Schedule 1. I'm sitting there thinking about Carterton School. It could extend all the way down to Holloway Street.
Yeah.
That could take in that. The difficulty that we would have is trying to get it outside South End School, unless it was a specific addition to that.
So, Jeff.
I'm just thinking I would actually need to take that back to the marae because we think it's a good point.
Yeah.
Outside the marae, everyone crosses the road on a.
I mean, you got.
Thankfully, the speeds have been reduced.
I wouldn't be telling some of my finance.
I know, we tried to. Tried to do that.
I know. Educational.
But it's educational.
They would say on the marae.
I'm thinking if it's an educational policy that we're buying into, I'll certainly take it back to.
I mean, I don't want to make extra work for you, but I just think it's a consistent message that we're trying to. We're trying to send, and if this is educational only and not enforcement, then why would we not take the opportunity to support the educational facilities?
We can just add another recommendation into that. I recommend, and I'm just thinking, request staff, a recommendation, 8th recommendation, request staff discuss with the working group an amendment to include a ban on vaping outside school. Come back to us with.
Early childhood education.
Early childhood.
Or the other option is you just request that that is included in the policy on page 3, that the Wairarapa District Councils have designated the following public places: council-owned parks, reserves, talks about seating in public areas, entrances outside and outdoor areas of all council-owned, operated, blah, blah. Council-owned or managed public car parks, and outside the front of all schools and early child
centres, Kuta and.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we will just clarify that if the other two councils don't go along with that bullet point, that might be something that then applies only in Carterton.
Might take that out.
And we'll just, if it's going to affect the integrity of the policy, we'll just bring the policy back to potentially policy and projects for any minor updates.
Yeah.
They wouldn't top it out.
Right, are we ready? I think we may. Okay. So first recommendations, council receives the report moved by Councillor Cretney, seconded by Councillor Gallen. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion's carried. Notes the Carlton District Council smoke-free policy is due for review. I'm going to take, can I do 1, 2? To take all those together? Take all 2 to 6 together. Someone to move, please. Councillor Cretney, seconded by Councillor Newman. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion's carried. I want to insert 6A. How's that? Which would be, help me with the wording on that, please, Solitaire.
Well, it'd be 7A,
It
wouldn't
would be, it would be 7. I would have said adopts a Wairarapa smoke and vape free policy with the addition of an additional bullet point on page 3 of the policy to include outside all educational facilities.
Yeah. We got that, Robin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so.
And Marae.
And
Marae.
I'm going to take that back from
You want-
you. Yeah, coming back to you.
Yeah. So I'm going to amend 7 to read as was just stated. Because I got half of it written down and ran out. Someone to move, please. The Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Aileen. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Motion's carried. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillors.
Good. Right, 7.7.
Turkey voting for Christmas at all, was it?
Easier than dog pound, say, yeah, Rebecca.
Always found it funny. Smoke-free legislation when Winston voting for it.
True. Good.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Your worship, Deputy Mayor and elected representatives. So this is just an update on the 3 orders reform, and just to note, this is a fast moving beast, so there's new information daily. So this is a snippet in time of a few weeks ago. I take the report as read. I just want to highlight a few things. The feedback that we have is that there is still a commitment from the government to continue with the reform, noting that the minister is planning to make recommendations for a reset of the current direction. What exactly that will mean, we will have to wait and see, but there's definitely a reset coming. Apart from the overarching political sphere on a ground level, the establishment part of the water service entity is progressing, and that's where all streams are working together with the National Transition Unit to gather data and put processes in place and develop that establishment, establishment entity that's going to deliver the service. Part of the establishment process within the local transition team was identifying key risks to all the councils in the transition or in the water service entity. We are working with the NTU on not only identifying risk but also mitigating the risks as we progress through this period. The other focus area is also the interface between council and the service entity post reform. So that's the main things that we are working on. Jeff, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
The councillors will be where we met with Colin Crampton, the new water entity CEO for Entity C, which runs from Tarawhiti, Gisborne in the north to Nelson, Marlborough, and it also includes the Chathams. It's really good to have the 3 mana whenua representatives at that meeting. There's a lot to be done in terms of progress of water services entity, the development of the new entity, and how that entity will engage with smaller local communities as it begins its development of its plan. So interesting to see a new structure come out from Colin Crampton following that meeting, that he's working through a process. Looks like it will have 5 regional hubs across Entity C, and that the Wairarapa will be part of the Wellington and Wairarapa regional hub.
So is a regional hub like a mini water services entity?
Service centre.
Yeah, so it will include, the service centre, it will include the customer facing front of it. So the delivery arm, the operational arm, capital projects, customer facing and relationship management and iwi mana whenua engagement.
Statutory management.
It's his structure. I'm a little bit unsure as to how it's actually going to work yet. I think there's a lot of time and a lot of positions that need to be filled before we get confidence that it will actually work in the way that we intended to.
So the new structure that he's put out doesn't include the statutory board?
His is the organisational structure, so the CE's structure. The representation at the regional group level is the board that interfaces and appoints the Water Services Entity Board, so that they appoint the structure above Colin Crampton. The structure that he's put out is his
down.
Is down. So that's the two parts of management. The regional representation group is made up, you'll recall, of 50% of council appointments and 50% of mana whenua appointments. That RRG, Regional Representation Group, will then appoint the board of the Water Services Entity. Okay, so that's the RRG. There is a local representation group that will operate at a planning framework level. So they will integrate our district plan, our growth plans, etc., into the Water Services Entity to make sure that water, wastewater and stormwater are planned in conjunction with district council growth plans. So that's a planning framework integration level, not necessarily the governance appointment level, which is the RRG. So there's two regional groups in there. One deals with planning, the other deals with board appointment.
And this is all to make it simpler.
Exactly.
Until you read the roadmap.
Yeah, exactly.
Can you read it? No. But look at that,
That's what's going on.
it looks like salmon spawning, doesn't it?
The challenge for us will be if that changes, it will have a significant flow-on effect to our annual planning and long-term planning processes.
Yep.
It's not insignificant.
I think I'm signalling that whether or not this goes ahead, or whether or not that Three Waters proposal, or whether or not the minister makes changes, significant changes to this going forward, statutory management is here, whether or not this happens. So if this doesn't happen and Carterton retains its autonomy, the statutory management of the water catchment has arrived in the signing of the treaty settlement.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
No, I know. I'm signalling that if we're not thinking about it, if this ain't going to happen, we are thinking about it in some way, then we have to think about how we do that, whether or not. So.
Difference, yeah. I would argue that the difference is that mana whenua have direct connect currently and will have that enhanced. You won't have. Yeah. I don't see Kahukura or Whittier.
I mean, you've done a great job. Thank you. You've done a great job. And I do understand we have direct connect, but we're talking about things like managing water flow, doing flood, all of the stuff that is happening, have been input into all of that.
Different. Regional council.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Councillor Dallas.
Question,
Yeah.
in your report, Hans, it's a really good report. Congratulate you on it. Kieran says that he will get back to us in late March with refinements, etc. Have you got any indication whether he's still going to do that? Because there's only 2 days left, and or is there some delay, or do you know? Have you heard?
I can just answer when that information came out, they did mention that the minister's main priority or first priority is the recovery of Gabriel. And that was taking precedent at that moment. I have not heard any further feedback around the reset of what it entails. Don't know if you've heard anything.
I can say that there's parts, and particularly the co-governance areas, is being handled in Prime Minister's, and we'll know where the next step is. So taking across when we know.
Yep. So there should be
Those conversations are still. So I'd put a like Johannes has said. This is a moving feast. But sometimes things stop, and then move off. It gets just keep alert and watch what's happening.
But the government must know that this level of uncertainty is presenting all sorts of issues for councils.
We could assume that. Yes. They could assume the government question.
No, that's a fair assessment. Very aware of the impact, not only of the cyclone on councils trying to do annual plans and long-term plans, but also of a change in any kind of reform program like this that we've been told. So if we look at our long-term plan, which we are developing at the moment, and go back a step, we look at next year's annual plan, the water assets are meant to be removed from our balance sheet at 11:59 on the 30th of June, 2024, which is in next year's annual plan. So it already impacts us for next year's annual plan. If that changes, we're going to have to not only change our annual plan, but also change our long-term plan. And all of the thinking around the long-term plan, which we've been told, is assume you have no Three Waters assets in your long-term plan for 3 years. If it's changed by 1 year, we will have 1 year with a long-term plan with Three Waters assets and Three Waters revenue, Three Waters costs, and 2 years of a long-term plan with none, which is very complicated.
So will they provide funding or transition back? Transition funding back?
Yeah.
Come back.
You got a better chance of predicting the weather in November.
Well, it's like a few weeks ago when the Prime Minister just decided that they'd wind back a number of policies that this council and others have spent an extraordinary amount of money in the last 5 years preparing for implementation of those policies. I mean, we should be sending the government an invoice on a regular basis for a wasted effort.
I have raised that as an exercise that should be done on a range of issues, to be quite frank.
Election year.
But it's but I think what I am noting is the change in the conversation around on the back of Cyclone Hale, Cyclone Gabriel, and the challenges that they're now facing right across the spectrum and supporting communities who have been devastated, and the conversation stretching. So what next? And managed retreats and all these conversations are happening. And I think it's like the conversation we had in the Merrill Forum around climate change. Do you focus on, if you've only got so much money to spend, do you spend that trying to reduce carbon emissions, or do you spend that building resilience and putting in place the mechanisms that can respond to what we know is coming? Because something's happening that we can't stop, no matter how much we in Carterton reduce our carbon footprint, because other nations like China and the United States and India and developing nations are doing what they're doing. Carterton can't. Our responsibility here at this table is to be able to meet the needs of our people in the outflung rural areas when they get smashed. And if you only got so much money, and I think I'm hearing the same conversation amongst government people, that resilience and being able to respond to destruction and loss of life is now the top priority. And that has a knock-on effect on a whole bunch of other things that people are planning, which are good, but not actually now, or now they're under question as to terms of where the priority lies. So hurry up and wait, watch and shoot. Yeah. So recommendation, the council receive the report. Someone to move, please. Councillor Gretney, seconded. Councillor Della, all in favour? Aye. Carry. Sim, take a break? Yes, it is. Thank you, we should. And then we'll be back to 7.1, 7.7.